Hello everyone, Necromancer for Kids here once again, coming at you with another deck profile. This time around, I'll be featuring this deck centered around the Kickman, which I lovingly refer to as Dynamic Entry, because of how Kickman reminds me so much of the iconic Naruto scene shown in the intro. As you could tell, I went with the Chaos Reasoning Gate shell for the deck, because I personally thought that's where Kickman would shine best. But you can also create some very fun zombie versions of this deck as well. I think there's a couple profiles that you can find here on YouTube. And you can also do a Reasoning Gate version of it, which I think would be less competitive, but a lot more interesting. But regardless, this is the deck we have for today. Which, by the way, the Kickman is a level 3 dark zombie monster with 1300 attack that says, when this card is special summoned, you can equip one appropriate equipped spell card from your graveyard to this card. And so this deck is going to be loaded up with all sorts of equipped spell cards for him to get really high attack. Usually he's going to end up with 2600, which means that maybe it would have been better off if you had actually summoned a bigger monster, but sometimes he goes off really hard with United We Stand, or with Mage Power, or maybe he could just act as a normal summon when you really need it. Regardless, this deck, of course, is not hyper competitive. You'd be better off just playing the regular Reasoning Gate version, or maybe even just playing one Kickman and not relying so much on the equip spells. But regardless, I like to build fun and interesting decks. As for the rest of the monster lineup, I chose to use BLS and 2 Chaos Sorcerers for my special summon monsters, as you can see here. And for my level 8s, I have a Dark Perdition of Chaos, of course, we need it in every Reasoning Gate deck, and 1 copy of the Creator, which can be kind of a surprise when the opponent sees they already have DMOC, and so they won't want to call 8 again, but it has synergy with Kickman because it allows you to discard a card to summon the Kickman, and then he'll get his effect off, and I'll get to equip an equipped spell card from your graveyard. That's why I decided to include it, plus of course it has synergy with Dark Perdition of Chaos itself, and with our level 4 monster here, which I'll get to in a second. For level 5, I picked Air Knight Parshath. The main reason is because it's a Piercer, and it's a light monster, and it's a different level than the other monsters, so it's less likely to be called. It rarely came up that it's actually a Piercer, but you know, sometimes it might let you OTK. You could also include instead of this Jinzo, or something like that if you wanted to. Obviously it's not the same level, but Jinzo's just a better card overall. But I liked using it just because it adds to the fun factor, and you get to take out pesky scapegoats. Besides that, level 4, of course, you have Sacred Crane. I'm only playing 2. As you can tell, there's only like 2 of each level in this deck, basically, so it's really hard for the opponent to guess correctly with Reasoning. Sacred Crane, of course, draws a card when it's special summoned. Again, has synergy with Creator, and it also has synergy with Premature Burial, and with Dimension Fusion, although Dimension Fusion does clash a bit with Cyberstein, which you kind of need in this deck because it allows you to get the OTKs a lot easier with your equipped spell cards. But as I mentioned earlier, it has anti-synergy with Dimension Fusion because you aren't always going to have enough life points to do both. Sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. But Stein is the way that you get cards like Master of Oz and the Gatling Dragon out, and which sometimes you need to, Ryu, Senshi, and so on and so forth. We have Big Bang Shot as our first equipped spell. It allows you to do piercing, like what we need Air Knight Parshath for. It's not the greatest card to hit with Kickman, but sometimes, you know, just need that extra. But it also has synergy with Giant Trunade, which we're running 3 of over here. And because if you equip this to opponent's monster and then you use Giant Trunade, it will end up banishing their monster. And Giant Trunade is just good in this deck in general, so you can get your OTKs more easily. Also, you'll see that Big Bang Shot has a secret mode where you can cause the opponent to inflict piercing damage to themselves when they attack your defense position monster. So that's cool. So besides 3 Trunade, we've got 1 Brain Control. I wanted to run 2, but there's like no room in this deck, and plus between Stein and your Dimension Fusions, which we're running 3 of, there isn't really much room to pay life points, to be honest. Yeah, I wish it was better, but it is what it is, and I wish I had more room, but yeah, the equip package takes up a lot of space. We run Dimension Fusion not only because it lets us get more monsters, it's very good for our United We Stand that we play, which increases a monster's attack defense by 800 for each monster you control, but also it will allow you to special summon Kickman, or Sacred Crane, or Demok, and then get their effects. Then we also, of course, we have Graceful Charity, and Pot of Greed, Heavy Storm, our one of limited mage power in the deck, which is one of the power equips that you can use on Kickman, potentially get really high attack. 3 Megamorph, just because that allows you to do the OTKs with Stein mostly, and you can also get OTKs with Dark Perdition of Chaos, or make a 2600 Kickman. Again, we're paying life points a lot, so usually this is going to be active. And of course, we've got 3 Monster Gate and 3 Reasoning, because it's a Reasoning Gate deck. Premature Burial, 3 Scapegoats. Not only, of course, is it useful with Monster Gate and protecting our life points, but it also powers up our United We Stand. Then we have 1 Snatch Steal, which unfortunately Kickman can't bring out and then put on an opponent's monster or something. That would be cool if it could, but unfortunately not. And we have 1 Ring of Destruction. I was testing out, you'll see in the main deck we had Call the Haunted, but there's just like no room, and Call the Haunted is usually too slow. I'd rather have an equipped spell card that maybe we can OTK with, because you'll see this is a very math heavy deck, and it's very difficult sometimes to figure out if you can actually OTK, and then you'll calculate and you'll be like, oh, I'm only doing 7,100 damage, so I can't win this turn. If I do all this, I'm going to be at like 500 life points. So yeah, it's very difficult. This is definitely not the world's best deck. It does brick up, but it's still fun. As I mentioned, you could run Jinzo in this deck, and you could run Decrees if you wanted to take care of those traps, of course, and you could main deck the Call the Haunted. All that said, I'm going to show you guys now some of the replays that I had, and hopefully you guys enjoy. Have a good one.
望み通りに。まだまだ。なんて連続斬りだ。
占いしかない。正義。いよ。